Hi students, how are you? So, as in the previous lecture, we were solving the NCERT textual exercise of chapter number 11, that is due nature of matter and radiation. So today we are continuing the same. So let's start exercise. So in the last lecture we have studied about the exercise 11.20. Today we people are going to study the 21st exercise, and in this exercise what he is saying, a monoenergetic electron beam with the electron speed of 5.20 into 10 power 6 meter per second is subjected to a magnetic field of 1.30 into 10 power minus 4 Tesla normal to the beam velocity. Means to say, monoenergetic beam of electron, in this way a beam of electron is coming. Monoenergetic means single electron beam is coming with the speed is given to us this 5 into 10 power minus 6 meter per second, and it is subjected to the magnetic field which is normal to the beam velocity. This is the velocity of electron, and here this is the normal magnetic field. Okay, so whenever this beam is subjected to the what we can say magnetic field which is normal to the beam velocity, what is the radius of circle traced by the beam? So here in this case what could happen, as the electrons enter inside the magnetic field region, they will experience the force what we call Lorentz force, magnetic Lorentz force they will experience, as a result of which, if the beam of the electron is going like that, then under the influence of this normal magnetic field which is acting like that, so what would happen, whenever these electrons enter inside the magnetic field region, they experience the what we can say magnetic Lorentz force, as a result of which these electrons will follow the circular path. So we have to find the radius of this circular path. Okay, he is asking to calculate the radius of circular path. Once again repeating, whenever the electron beam moving with some velocity enters in the magnetic field region whose value is given to us, so what could happen, as these electron or charged particle when enter inside the magnetic field region, so the charged particle is forced to experience a force, and that force is called as magnetic Lorentz force. Now that magnetic Lorentz force provides the electron a necessary centripetal force, as a result of which they follow the circular path inside the magnetic field region. So we people have to calculate this radius of the circular path. Okay, in the first part. In the next, given E by m, charge to the mass ratio of the electron is given to us 1.76 into 10 power 11 coulomb per kg. And in the B part is saying, is the formula you employ in A valid for calculating the radius of path of a 20 mega electron volt B? Means to say, in the B part is asking that whether the formula you applied here is valid for calculating the radius of the path when the electron beam is moving with the energy of this 20 mega electron volt. If not, in what way it is modified? So let's start solving this first part. The data we have given, the velocity or the electron speed is given to us, and here the magnetic field which is acting perpendicular to the direction of this electron beam, it is also given to us. So here specific charge ratio is also given. Now as the beam traces this circular path, then the force experienced, magnetic Lorentz force, is given by basically Fm is equals to Q into vector V cross B. This is basically the value which we will study later on, but here you have to keep in your mind that this magnetic Lorentz force experienced by the electron as it is entering in the magnetic field region, and magnetic field is acting at 90-degree angle, so we can also write it as QVB sine of angle 90 degree. So psi 90 value 1. So we got the magnitude of this magnetic Lorentz force, that is Fm will be equals to QVB. This is the magnitude of Lorentz force. So here this force is responsible for providing the, what we can say, centripetal force. So that's why here we have written EBV. Why we have written here E? Because charge of the electron is denoted by E. So EV is the velocity of the electron beam, B is the magnetic field region, and this is equal to centripetal force. So we want to calculate this R. This R we want to calculate, so R will become equal to MV over EB. Now if I take this M like that, rearranging, I can write this as E by M, V over E by M into B. Why? Because E by M ratio is given to us. So putting the value E by M, we got this, and substituting the value, we got the radius of the circular path, that is 22.7 centimeter. Okay. So therefore the radius of circular path is given by this. Now let's move to the case B. Here he is asking, is this formula you applied is valid for calculating the radius of path? So here in part B, we have given the energy of the electron beam as equals to 20 mega electron volt. So this energy is equals to the kinetic energy, that is equals to 1 by 2 mv square, and here we can calculate the speed of the electron, and it comes out to be, putting the value of E, that is 20 mega electron volt, we can further write it as 20 mega 10 to the power 6 into electron volt, 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 joule. In this way, this is our energy. So substituting this value here, and M is the mass of the electron, and value is 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 kilogram. So after solving it, we got the value of the speed of the electron, that is 2.652 into 10 to the power this 9 meter per second. Okay. Now the speed of the electron becomes 10 to the power 9 meter per second, which is not possible, because according to Einstein's theory of relativity, anything cannot move with the speed greater than the speed of light, and if it's moving under that condition, we have to apply the relativistic formula in order to calculate the energy, in order to calculate the speed. So here we can write that this result is incorrect, because nothing can move faster than the light according to Einstein's theory of relativity. So in the above formula, the formula which we have employed here, the expression this mv square by 2 for energy can only be used in non-relativistic limit. Non-relativistic limit means where the Einstein theory of relativity is valid. That is, for this speed having value very lesser than the speed of light. Okay. This formula which we have implied here, it is used only when the speed of the moving body is very small, or it is lesser than the speed of light. When very high speeds are concerned, the relativistic domain comes into consideration. Then the formula we can employ here in order to calculate the radius of the circular path, that is, here the relativistic mass formula will came into existence, that is m is equals to m naught over square root of 1 minus v square by c square. So hence the radius of circular path will comes out to be r is equals to mv over eb. So instead of this m, we people will write this m, that is equals to m naught over square root of 1 minus v square by c square. So simply by putting this value of m here, so what we get, m naught over this rest term will remain same, and v over eb, it will be like that. So in this way we can modify the formula if the electron is moving with this speed. You got the point? Once again I am repeating. The question was the monoenergetic electron beam with the electron speed of this much. This is the monoenergetic beam of electron. The speed is given to us. It enters in the magnetic field region, which is acting at 90 degree, which is perpendicular to the speed of this. value of the magnetic field is given. What is the radius of circular path traced? So in order to calculate the radius of circular path, here one thing you have to keep in mind, that is the magnetic Lorentz force experienced by the electron when it enter inside the magnetic field region is given by vector Fm is equals to Q into vector V cross B. Cross product is there. So when we convert this cross product into normal form, so BB sin theta will be there. Now here in this case theta is 90 degree. So QVB sin 90 value is 1. So we are writing magnitude of force is QVB. Now this force is responsible for providing the necessary centripetal force to the electron. So this magnetic Lorentz force will provide the necessary centripetal force by mb square by r, so that r is equals to mb over eb. So here in order to introduce this specific charge ratio, I have taken this m in the denominator of e, and substituting the value we got the radius of this circular path 22.7 cm. Now in case B, he is asking, is this formula you employed valid for calculating the radius of path of 20 mega electron volt? So here we have given the energy in which form? Kinetic energy form. So kinetic energy is given to us is equal to 1 by 2 mv square. So here from this relation we are making the speed as subject, so speed will comes out to be 2.652 into 10 to the power 9 meter per second, and this speed cannot be possible. So relativistic domain will comes into consideration. So taking the value of here m as a relativistic mass denoted by m naught over square root of 1 minus v square by t square. So in this way the formula can be modified in order to calculate the radius of circle. Okay, let's move to the next question now. This magnetic Lorentz force, later on we will study about it in detail. Here just you have to keep in mind that whenever the charge particle enter inside the magnetic field region, it experiences a force, and that force is called as magnetic Lorentz force, named after the scientist what we say Lorentz. Okay, now let's move to the next question. In this question, 22nd question, he is saying that an electron gun with its collector at a potential of 100 volt fires out the electron in a spherical bulb containing hydrogen gas at low pressure. So suppose here we have this electron gun. This is was the filament, and this was called as cathode, it is anode. So it is firing these electrons on the spherical bulb containing, this is spherical bulb, and is containing hydrogen gas at low pressure. Hydrogen gas at low pressure. It is containing the hydrogen gas inside at low pressure. Pressure is also given. A magnetic field of this much curves the path of the electron in a circular orbit of radius this much. The path can be viewed because the gas ions in the path focus the beam by attracting the electron and emitting light by electron capture. This method is known as fine beam tube method. Determines the specific charge ratio, that is what we say E by M from the data. Once again repeating, an electron beam, electron gun with its collector at potential of 100 volt fires out electrons in a spherical bulb. This is spherical bulb containing gas at low pressure. A magnetic field of this much curves the path of electron in a circular orbit of this, and path can be viewed because the gas ions in the path focus the beam by attracting electron and emitting light by electrons capture. Okay, so we have to calculate this E by M for the data. So here we have given the magnetic field. whenever these electrons are fired on this hydrogen gas bulb, a magnetic field is also applied there. So what would happen? Here in this case, the data which we have given, that is potential, the magnetic field is given, radius of the path is given, energy of each electron will be equal to its kinetic energy, and S is equals to the EV, that work done by the potential in order to provide that kinetic energy. So here we people will make this V square as subject, and V square will comes out to be 2 EV by M. Let this be equation number 1. Now, if the magnetic field, it is the magnetic field due to its bending nature that provides the centripetal force, that is F is equals to mv square by r. Now suppose here the magnetic field is applied. So under that condition, this electron beam will get bent out. So here the centripetal force will be equals to the magnetic force. And what is the magnetic force? Whenever the charged particle enter inside the magnetic field region, under that condition it experiences the force, what we call this force as a magnetic Lorentz force. Already I have told you, because this magnetic Lorentz force is given by Q into vector V cross vector V. Okay, so here charge on the electron is denoted by E. So in this way, this force is responsible for providing the centripetal force. So from here we will calculate the speed, that is V is equals to EVR by M. Okay, now putting the value of this in equation 1, substituting this value of V in this equation, what we get? V square is there. What is the value of V? That is EVR by M. So here it is written that 2EV by M. This 2EV by M, it will be equals to V square, and this is nothing but E square, V square, R square over M square. So from here, what would happen? This M and M will get cancelled out. And here, what would happen? This E and this E, power 1, will get cancelled out. Now making this E by M as subject, what we get? 2V over V square into R square. So this is the charge to the mass ratio. Substituting the respective values, what we get? We get after calculation 1.73 into 10 to the power 11 coulomb per kg. So therefore the specific charge ratio is given by this. Okay. So once again repeating, here this is our electron gun. This is electron gun. It is electron gun with its collector is maintained at potential of 100 volt and is fires out the electrons on a spherical bulb. This is spherical bulb in which the hydrogen gas is maintained at low pressure. Now the magnetic field curves the path of the electron, a circular path of radius this. Path can be viewed because gas ions in the path focuses the beam by attracting the electron. So suppose here the magnetic field is applied like that. The condition is the magnetic field should be perpendicular to the direction of this electron beam. Only under that condition they will experience the force. So here the kinetic energy gained is by the electron is due to the accelerating potential between the anode and cathode. Okay, so here magnetic field provides the necessary centripetal force. So mv square by r, it must be EBV. So from here we will calculate the value of V and put here. So then we got the value of E by M. Simple. Once again I am saying here, don't get confused with this term, that is magnetic Lorentz force. We will study it later on. Here just you have to keep in mind that what is this Lorentz force? Whenever the charged particle enter inside the magnetic field region, it experiences force. When the magnetic field is acting at right angle, and that force was discovered by the scientist Lorentz. So that's why it is named as the Lorentz force. Let's move to the next question. Question number 22 is an X-ray tube produces a continuous spectrum of radiation with its short wavelength and at 0.45 angstrom. What is the maximum energy of a photon in the radiation? Maximum energy of the photon in the radiation. First thing we have to calculate this. From your answer to A, guess what should be the order of accelerating voltage for electron required in such a tube. Okay. So here X-ray tube, popularly called as Orlich X-ray tube, may be there. So it is producing the spectrum of radiation having the wavelength which is given to us 0.45 angstrom. So writing this in System International, we got 0.45 into 10 to the minus 10 meter. Now the maximum energy of the photon is given by as E is equals to h nu, which implies nu is equal to c by lambda. So here we can write E is equal to h c by lambda. Now putting the respective constants, Planck's constant 6.6 into 6 into 10 to the minus 34, c is the speed of light, lambda is the wavelength, and in order to write it in the form of electron volt, here we have divided it with the electron charge on the electron, that is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 90, like that. Okay. So what we got here, that is after calculation 27.6 into 10 to the power 3 electron volt. This 10 to the power 3 can be written in the form of kilo. Okay, because 1 kilo is equals to 10 to the power 3. So that's why. So therefore we got the energy is equals to 27.6 kilo electron volt. So this is our required answer, which is asked. What is the maximum energy of photon in the radiation? Okay. In the B part, he is asking from your answer, guess what should be the order of accelerating voltage. So here, accelerating voltage is providing the energy to the electrons for producing the X-rays. So to get an X-ray of this 27.6 kilo electron volt, we can say that the incident electrons must possess at least this much kinetic energy, their energy should be this much, and if we round off this energy, then order of energy should be 30 kilo electron volt. So in this way we can answer this question. Okay, let's move ahead. Okay, let's move ahead. The next question is saying that in an accelerator experiment, now the question is, what is accelerator? Accelerator means a device used to accelerate the charged particles. Okay, an accelerator experiment on high energy collisions of electrons with the positron. In the accelerator, high energy collision of electron collision is taking place with the positrons, and a certain event is interpreted as annihilation of electron-positron pair of total energy 10.2 billion electron volt. Billion matlab means 10 to the power 9 into 2 gamma rays of equal energy. What is the wavelength associated with each gamma ray? So here the concept annihilation of matter is coming. In the 11th class I have told you what is annihilation of matter. Whenever the electron positron pair destroy each other, electron and positron destroy each other, then their, what we can say, their mass will appear in the form of radiation, and that radiation is called as gamma radiation. So here the similar phenomena is going to take place, annihilation of an electron-positron pair is given. One electron and one positron, when they collide to destroy each other, the process is called annihilation of matter, and under that condition one gamma ray is emitted. Now here the pair, it is given here in the question, electron-positron pair annihilation is taking place. So here the pair word is given. What does it indicate? That whenever they destroy, these pairs destroy each other, then two gamma radiations will be emitted. So total energy we have given, that is 10.2 billion electron volt. Billion means 10 is power 9. Okay, and putting the value of this 1 electron volt, as we already know that 1.6 into 10 is power minus 19 joule is the value. So 10 is power 9 and 10 is power minus 19. Minus 19 plus 9, that is equals to 10 is power minus 10. Okay. Sorry, here electron volt value is there, so here we can write 10 is power minus 19. So this is the value of 1 electron volt. Here we have substituted. Hence the energy of each gamma ray. This was the energy of the two gamma rays. So energy of one gamma ray will be divided by 2. So after dividing it by 2, what we get? That is 8.16 into 10 is power minus 10 joule. Okay? But here in this question we have to calculate the wavelength. So as we know that E is equals to hc by lambda, so lambda is equal to hc by E dash. Substituting the value after calculation, we got the required answer, that is 2.436 into 10 to the power minus 16 meter. Again I am saying annihilation of matter. We have already studied in the 11th class. Annihilation means to destroy. So here when one electron and one positron they destroy each other, then the destruction will appear in the form of radiation, that is one gamma ray is emitted. And if the pair is getting annihilated, under that condition two gamma rays will be emitted. Okay. Let's move to the next question. Yes. Question number is 25. In this question, what he is saying, estimating the following two numbers should be interesting. The first number will tell you why the radio engineers do not need to worry much about the photons, and the second number tells you why our eye can never count the photons, even in the barely detectable light. So in the first part we have to calculate the number of photons emitted per second by a medium wave transmitter of 10 kilowatt power emitting radio waves of wavelength 500 meter. So here this is just the question to calculate the interesting numbers here. The first number is saying, it will tell you that why the radio engineers means those engineers who are dealing with the radio waves, okay, or working on the radars or sonars like that. So why the radio engineers do not need to worry much about the photons? The second number tells you why our eye can never count the photons even in barely detectable light. Very large number of photons are entering in our eye, and radio engineers do not bother about the photons. So here in the first part, the number of photons we have to calculate emitted per second by a medium wave transmitter. Now this is basically the part of communication which chapter has been eliminated. Medium wave transmitters, just like at your home. If we switch on the radio, then they say that we are speaking from the Akashvani Kendra like that, medium wave about this much frequency, short wave has like the different bands are there. So here the radio waves are emitted in this band, medium wave transmitter, and that transmitter has a power of 10 kilowatt, okay, emitting the radio waves of wavelength 500 meter. So here is the first part. We have given the power of transmitter 10 kilowatt, 10 kilo means 10 is power 3. So when this 10 is got multiplied with 10 is power 3, what we got? That is equals to 10 is power 4 watt. Now watt is the unit of power, and power is energy over time. So that's why here joule per second is the written. Hence energy emitted by the transmitter per second, that will be per second energy emitted, that will be 10 is power 4 joule. Now the wavelength is given to us 500 meter. So we want to calculate first of all energy, because we want to calculate the number of photons. So as number of photon in the previous lecture I have told you, formula P by E, P is given to us E. We will calculate Hc by lambda by making use of this formula, putting the value of H Planck's constant, C speed of light, lambda wavelength. So here in this way we got the energy in joules. Let n be the number of photons emitted per second by the transmitter. Now why I have written this formula? As we know that P is equals to energy, total power is equals to energy over time, and let us consider for n number of photons this power is there. Now he is saying that and number of photon emitted per second. So here we will put the value of this T as 1 second and E like that. What does it mean? Which implies n will be equals to n over 1. Number of photon per second will be equals to P by E. So that's why here n is equals to P by E. P is given to us 10 is power 4, okay, and energy Hc by lambda. If we put the value in denominator, Hc over lambda, lambda will becomes numerator here, so that's why 500 is multiplied here, and after calculation we got the result 2.51 into 10 is power 31. Now see here how many large number of photons are emitted by the transmitter per second. Now this value is per second. Oh, let's compare this order. 10 is power 31 photons in 1 second. That transmitter is emitting. So if the radio engineers are going to count them, then in 1 minute it will be in crores, and sometimes they will get confused. So that's why this is the answer. The number of photons entering the the radio engineers do not bother about these photons. Further, as energy of radio photon is very less, but the number of photons emitted per second in a radio wave is very large. Look at the energy, 10 is power 4 joule. And what about the number? 10 is power 31. So that's why, as the energy of radio photons is very less, but the number of photons emitted per second in a radio wave is very large. So therefore existence of minimum quantum of energy can be ignored, and the total energy of radio waves can be treated as being continuous. So that's why radio engineers do not bother about these photons. Let's move ahead in the B part. He is saying the number of photons entering the pupil of our eye per second corresponding to minimum intensity of white light that we humans can perceive, and that is given to us intensity. Energy incident per unit area, 10 is power minus 10 watt per meter square. Take the area of the pupil of our eye is 0.4 centimeter square, and the average frequency of white light is this much. So as we know that, look at students, intensity, energy incident per unit time per unit area, and if this intensity consists of number of photons and a number of photons, under that condition n number of photons, so here we can write that if I modify this result, then n by t into E by A should be there. What about E? E is nothing but this h nu. Here we can also write this t. Okay, so h nu by A. We want to calculate this number of photons per second. So for this we are taking the value of t as 1. If we put its value as 1 second, under that condition, making this a subject, we got on cross multiplying I into A over h nu. Now what is intensity? 10 is power minus 10. Area of the people 0.4 into centimeter square. So 0.4 into 10 is power minus 2 whole square will be here, because we want to convert this area which is given 0.4 centimeter square in terms of meet system international. 10 is power minus 2, okay, whole square will be there, and that will be equal to 0.4 into 10 is power minus 4 meter square, like that. Substituting the value of the Planck's constant, frequency 6 into 10 to the power 14, we got the value of the number of photons emitted, that is number of photons entering I, 10 is power 4 photons per second. Now how much large these photons are there? 10 is power 4 photons per second, and this number is also very large. So this number is not as large as one found in problem A, but is large enough for human eye to never see the individual photons. In 1 second, 10 is power 4 photons are entering in our eye. So, and this number is not very large as comparison to this number. So here he is saying that we people are the human eye to never see the individual. We are not bothered about the seeing the photons. That 10 is power 4, 10,000 photons are entering in our eye in 1 second. We are not bothering about that. So that's why this number is. Okay? Got clear? Let's move to the next question. Now, in this 26th question, it is saying that ultraviolet light having the wavelength 2271 angstrom from a 100-watt mercury source irradiates. Irradiates means chamka dena, to make illuminate. Okay, irradiate a photocell made of molybdenum metal. Now, suppose as I have already told you, a photocell, cylindrical hollow, this is photocell. Okay, and what we call it as, this is the photocell. I am taking only the upper part picture here, drawing here. So ultraviolet light. This is the ultraviolet light, this is UV light, wavelength is given from a 100-watt mercury source. Here the source is there. Okay, 100 watt, this mercury source is there. Mercury source is there. So ultraviolet light irradiates a photocell. It is radiating this photocell made up of molybdenum metal. Okay, if the stopping potential is found to be minus 1.3 volt, estimate the work function of the metal. We want to calculate work function. How would the photocell respond to this high intensity? In the B part is saying how would the photocell respond to high intensity red light having the wavelength this produced by the helium neon laser. In the second case, the part is this. So in the first part, what he is saying, the data which we have given, wavelength of this ultraviolet radiation given to us in the form of angstrom, we will convert it in the form of system international. So we got 2271 into 10 to the minus 10 meter. Stopping potential is given to us 1.3 volt. Now we have the photo energy according to Einstein photoelectric equation. What we have, that is Einstein photoelectric equation you all know, that is 1 by 2 mv max square is equals to h nu minus h nu naught. Now this h nu naught is nothing but work function, and this one maximum kinetic energy of emitted photoelectron is equals to work done by the stopping potential according to photoelectric effect or photoelectric experiment. So here this kinetic energy is corresponding to EV naught. So we got phi naught, taking this phi naught there and this here. So phi naught is equals to h nu minus EV naught. V naught is the stopping potential. Now h nu is nothing but c by lambda. So h c by lambda minus EV naught. Okay, in this way. Now substituting the respective constants, what we got here, that is, here mind that one thing should be noted, electron volt is given. So we have put the value of 1.3 into electron, charge on the electron, that is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. Don't get confused. Okay. So here after calculation we got it in the form of this joule, and then in order to again express it in electron volt, this we have divided it with the 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19, as a result of which this will get cancelled out, and after dividing it we got the value of the work function, that is 4.2 electron volt. Now in the next step, we in this way we can get the value of this work function which was asked in this part A. In part B, he is saying that how would the photocell respond if to the high intensity red light of wavelength is produced by helium neon laser. Now photocell will respond, condition is frequency of the incident light must be greater than threshold frequency. So here we have to calculate the frequency. If it is found to be greater than the threshold frequency, under that condition it will show the photoelectric effect, otherwise it will not show. So here wavelength of red light is given to us, so we can calculate the what we say, that is threshold frequency for this molybdenum metal. Work function value is known to us, that is 6.64 into 10 to the power minus 19 divided by this h, that is Planck's constant. Putting the value we got this much. This is the threshold frequency. Okay, this is the threshold frequency. Now frequency for the red light, as the wavelength of this red light is given, so putting this value of this wavelength here, we got the frequency of this red light as equal to c by lambda r. So putting the value, c speed of light and lambda is the wavelength of red light, 6328 angstrom, converting angstrom into 10 to the power minus 10. So we got 4.74 into 10 to the power, this 14 hertz. Now compare this frequency. Simply I am going to compare here the order. Here order is 10 to the power 15 hertz, and here order is the 10 to the power 14 hertz. What does it mean? That frequency of this red color is lesser than the threshold frequency. If frequency of this red color is lesser than threshold frequency, under that condition no photoelectric emission will take place, as a result of which this photocell will not respond to the red light produced by the helium neon laser. So in this way, this was your 26th question. Let's move to the next question. Question number 27. We have given a monochromatic radiation. Monochromatic radiation means the radiation has only the single wavelength. Radiation having a single wavelength. Of wavelength this much. Wavelength is given to us 640 nanometer. From the neon lamp irradiates a photosensitive material made of cesium or cesium or tungsten. Okay, it is given to us. The stopping voltage is measured to be 0.54 volt. The source is replaced by the iron source, and its wavelength is 427.2 nanometer. Line radiates the same photocell, predicts the new stopping potential. So here, first of all, we are moving for the neon lamp. Monochromatic radiation of this much from the neon lamp. Suppose this is our neon lamp. This is neon lamp. Okay, so radiation coming from this neon lamp. Irradiate means चमका देना, किसी के ऊपर गिरना. Okay, illuminates the photosensitive material. Suppose this is the photosensitive material. This is photosensitive material. This is the photosensitive material made of cesium or tungsten. The stopping voltage is measured to be, stopping voltage means at which the photoelectric current in the, what we can say, circuit becomes zero. The source in this way. This was the first part. So we have to calculate here. After that, the source is replaced by iron source. Now this neon lamp is removed, and is removed with respect to this iron source, having the wavelength this much line. It radiates the photocell. Okay, predicts the new stopping potential. Now this radiates the what we can say, photocell. In the first case, it was radiating this like this. We can say here it is our photocell. So what would happen here? For neon lamp, the wavelength is given. So first of all, we would calculate the work function, because if the work function of the metal is known to us, only under that condition we can calculate that particular stopping potential. So for neon lamp, wavelength is given, as we know that according to Einstein photoelectric equation. Again I am writing EV naught is equals to H nu minus this work function phi naught, and nu is C by lambda. So rearranging this equation, we got phi naught is equals to H C by lambda minus EV naught. Substituting the values here, we got the work function, this in terms of joule, and then in writing in terms of electron volt, we have to divide it with the 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19. So this term and this term will get cancelled out. We got the work function of the material as 1.4 electron volt. So therefore this phi naught is equals to 1.4 electron volt. Further, for iron source, if the iron source is placed there, under that condition, what would happen? Wavelength is given to us, okay, and this, according to Einstein photoelectric equation, again the same thing, EV naught dash must be equals to Hc by lambda dash minus phi naught. What is this V naught dash? This is the new stopping potential we want to predict, and lambda dash is the wavelength of this iron source. Substituting the values, okay, we got this EV naught is equals to 2.401 into 10 to the minus 19 joule. Now, but we want to calculate this V naught, so which imply V naught will be equals to, dividing this charge on electron on the right side, we got this V naught is equals to 1.5 electron volt. So this will be the required answer. Clear? You got the point or not? Once again repeating. Monochromatic radiation of wavelength from the neon lamp. Suppose here the neon lamp is there, and this neon lamp radiations pass on the material like that, photosensitive material made up of this cesium or tungsten. Now this material may be inside the photocell. So that's why the second case is saying the source is replaced by the iron source. Now in the second case, iron source is placed there, and the radiation of wavelength lambda dash, here the wavelength was lambda, okay, radiates the same photocell which is made up of material of this cesium, Okay, so we have to find the new stopping potential, that is V naught we have to calculate. In this case the stopping potential was already given to us. This V naught dash we have to predict. V naught was given to us. Let's move to the next question. This 28th question saying a mercury lamp is a convenient source for studying the frequency dependence of photoelectric emission. He is saying mercury lamp, a lamp in which the mercury vapors are there. So that mercury lamp is a convenient source for studying the frequency dependence of photoelectric emission. Since it gives the number of spectral lines, now what is this meaning? Spectral lines means a group of lines, okay? Group of lines, what we can say, or group of lines having the wavelength ranging from this UV, ultraviolet, to the rendered of visible spectrum, having the different wavelengths, different frequencies. Spectral lines means lines having the different wavelengths and different frequencies ranging from ultraviolet to visible spectrum. In our experiment with its rubidium photocell, cell is taken as the rubidium photocell, the following lines of mercury source are used. So here these lines wavelength is given lambda 1 3650 angstrom, lambda 2 is 4047 angstrom, lambda 3 4358 angstrom, lambda 4 5461 angstrom, and so on, lambda 5. The stopping voltages were measured to be corresponding to these wavelengths. In this rubidium photocell, the stopping voltages are given to us. V01 is equal to this much in this way. All the stopping voltages are given. Determine the value of this Planck's constant H and the threshold frequency and work function for the material. We have to determine here three things: the Planck's constant, the threshold frequency, and work function for the material. Work function means phi naught, threshold frequency nu naught, Planck's constant H. In order to calculate this, we have given only two things: the wavelength and stopping potential. So first of all, wavelength is given to us, so we will calculate all the frequencies of these 5 spectral lines to give wavelength is provided to us. We got the value of frequency. Already we have got the data of stopping potential. So we will plot the graph between stopping potential and the frequency, just like the graph was plotted by R.M. Millikan. Okay, and accordingly we will calculate the respective values. So here in this case, as frequency is equal to speed over wavelength, speed of light over wavelength, so nu1, in this way we will calculate all the frequencies. Then putting this data of the frequencies as well as this stopping potential in a tabular form, we got the coordinates, and then plotting the graph between the stopping potential and the frequency, we got a straight line. Okay, and this straight line intersects this frequency axis at 5 into 10 is power 14 hertz. So this will be called as threshold frequency. Mind that, because according to R.M. Millikan, the graph he has plotted was like that, in this way, he has plotted this graph. So this was called the threshold frequency. Okay, so here what we got the value, threshold frequency as 5 into 10 power 14 hertz. Further, this point D is corresponding to the frequency lesser than threshold frequency. So all the spectral lines whose frequency is lesser than this 5 into 10 power 14 hertz, they will not show the photoelectric effect. So here, if we look at here, so point D is corresponding frequency lesser than, hence there is no photoelectric emission, so there is no stopping voltage is required for this. So here look at here. The frequency is 4.3343. So no stopping potential is required. So it is verifying this statement that for the frequency lesser than this threshold frequency, no stopping potential is required. Okay. Now we want to calculate the Planck's constant. So Planck's constant is calculated by evaluating this slope, and this slope according to R a milliton is nothing but h over E. So how we can calculate it further? So here we can calculate the slope as slope of the straight line is AB over CB. Now what about AB? Corresponding to this AB, we have the value AB. This is nothing but its corresponding value. The difference between these two is it corresponds to 0.16, and this corresponds to 1.28, nearly to the 1.3 in this way. So 1.328 minus 1.6, this difference is nothing but delta V will be there, that is 1.28 minus 0.16 in terms of volt. So here we are getting AB. What about CB? This is CB. B is corresponding to 8.2. This is corresponding to 8.214, or simply you can write 8.2 into 10 to the power 14 hertz, and this C is corresponding to, if we look at this frequency, then it will correspond to 5.493 into 10 to the power 14 hertz. Okay, so taking this difference we got this value, and taking this difference we got this value. So this difference is nothing but this is delta nu. Now according to R. A. Millikan, we have this formula as H over nu, it must be equals to this AB over CB. Sorry, H over E. Why this? Because R. A. Millikan has checked the correctness of this Einstein photoelectric equation. How that one Einstein photoelectric equation is 1 by 2 m V max square is equals to h nu minus h nu naught. Now this kinetic energy is nothing but equating EV naught. So what we get, h nu minus h nu naught, or this h nu naught is what work function. So we can write like that. So therefore V naught stopping potential is equals to h by E into nu minus phi naught over E. So that's why if we compare it with the slope intercept form, then y is equals to mx plus c will be there. So m must be equals to h by E. So that's why he has written h by E, it must be equals to AB over CB. So in this way we got the value of Planck's constant 6.573 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule second. Is it clear? It is possible only when you have studied thoroughly about the theory, that is R. A. Millikan correctness, how he has checked the correctness of that Einstein photoelectric equation. Now we got the value of this Planck's constant. So therefore the work function phi naught will be equals to h nu naught. So threshold frequency we already know, this is 5 into 10 to the power 14 hertz. So simply multiplying the Planck's constant with the threshold frequency, we got the work function. Now in order to convert it in electron volt, we have to divide it with the 1.6 into 10 to the power this minus 19. Why? Because 1 electron volt is equals to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 joule. So which imply 1 joule is equals to 1 over 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 electron volt. So that's why. So we got the value of work function, that is 2.054 electron volt in this way. Clear? So we have calculated the values of this Planck's constant, we have calculated the work function, and from the diagram it is quite clear that threshold frequency is corresponding to this 5 into 10 to the power 14 Hertz. So this was your question. Let's move ahead to the next question. This 19th question is there. Is saying that the work 29th question is there. Work function for the following metals: sodium, potassium, molybdenum, is nickel. It is given. Which of these metals will not give the photoelectric emission for a radiation of wavelength this much from a helium-cadmium laser placed at 1 meter away from the photocell? What happens if the laser is brought nearer and placed 50 centimeter away? So here in this question, work functions are given. We are provided with the wavelength. So we have to calculate the energy of the incident radiation, and if this energy is found to be greater than this energy of the incident radiation is found to be greater than the work function of the metal, then the photoelectric emission will take place, otherwise it will not take place. So let's first of all calculate the energy. As what we know that E is equal to Hc by lambda, formula for the energy is there. So we got H, Planck's constant, C, speed of light, lambda, wavelength is given 3300 angstrom. So we got the value of energy in terms of joule. Then by dividing this by 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19, this joule will get converted into electron volt. So we got 3.158 electron volt. So therefore energy of the incident radiation is 3.158 electron volt. Now check that this energy is whether greater or whether lesser than this sodium. Check out this. This is the work function of the sodium. So this energy is found to be greater than the work function. So this metal, that is sodium metal, will show the photoelectric effect. Also, potassium will also show the photoelectric effect. This molybdenum, look at molybdenum work function, 4.17 electron volt, and here energy of incident radiation is lesser than this work function. So molybdenum is not going to show the photoelectric effect. Okay. So here again nickel work function is greater than the threshold and what we can say energy of incident radiation. So that's why molybdenum and nickel will not show the photoelectric emission, and rest of the metals will show the photoelectric emission. Now in the second case he is saying that what would happen if the laser is brought nearer and placed 50 centimeter away. Okay. So what would happen as the laser is brought nearer? For example, suppose this is laser, if we are bringing it nearer to that photosensitive matter, under that condition simply intensity is going to increase. As the laser is brought nearer, so intensity of light that thing is going to increase. Energy will remain same. So what we conclude, according to laws of photoelectric emission, intensity of the incident radiation is proportional to the number of photons. So if the laser source is brought nearer, under that condition, number of photoelectrons emitted from these metals will increase, but there would be no effect on the energy. So the two metals which are not showing the photoelectric effect, they will continue to show the no photoelectric emission. So here we can say, if the source of light is brought nearer to photocells and placed this much centimeter away from them, then the intensity of radiation will increase, and this does not affect the energy of the radiation. Hence the result will be same as before. That is, these metals are not going to show the photoelectric effect. However, the photoelectron emitted from sodium and potassium will increases in the proportion of intensity. Okay, so this was your 29th question. Let's move ahead to the next question. 30th question is there. So here in this case, the question is, light having the intensity 10⁻⁻5 watt per meter square falls on the sodium photocell. Suppose this is our sodium photocell. This is sodium, okay? So light falls on this sodium photocell having the surface area of 2 centimeters square. Assuming the top 5 layers of sodium absorb the incident energy, estimate the time required for the photoelectric emission in the wave picture of radiation. The work function for the metal is to be 2 electron volt. What is the implication of your answer? So here in this case, the 5 layers of sodium, I am representing this as sodium consisting of these 5 layers. In this way. In this way, okay? Here. In this way. Assuming that top 5 layers of sodium absorb the incident energy, these 5 layers are going to absorb the energy like that, okay? Estimate the time required for photoelectric emission. What is the time required for the photoelectric emission? That electrons are coming out from this in the wave picture of radiation. The work function for the metal is given to us, and what are the implications? So here the data which we have given, area 2 centimeters square, converting it in system international, centimeter square will be got converted to 10⁻⁻4 meter square. Intensity 10⁻⁻5 watt per meter square. Further, number of layers 5, time required we want to calculate. Work function is given to us 2 electron volt. Converting it in terms of joule, we got to 3.2 into 10⁻⁻19 joule. Number of layers of sodium that absorb the incident energy, that is 5. As we know that effective atomic area of the sodium atom is given to be 10⁻⁻20 meter square. Now the question arises, why we have written this? Effective atomic area of sodium atom. Sodium atom. As we have studied in the 11th class chemistry, 2nd chapter atom, the size of the atom is found to be 10⁻⁻10 meter. So area is proportional to square of the radius. So that's why here 10⁻⁻20 meter square is taken. Hence the number of conduction electrons in n layers. Number of conduction electrons in n layers will be given by, that is, what about this? This is the total area divided by atomic area of the sodium atom. Total area divided by atomic area of sodium atom multiplied by this number of layers. How we have written this formula? That is, number of layers of sodium multiplied by total area divided by atomic area of sodium atom. Atomic area of sodium atom. So that's why here we have the formula. Here n is equals to 5, so we have written here. And what about total area? That is 2 into 10⁻⁻4 meter square divided by AE, that is atomic area of sodium, 10⁻⁻20. Calculating it, we got the value 10⁻⁷. These are the conduction electrons. Okay. Now the incident power is uniformly absorbed by all the electrons. Look at here. Incident power is absorbed by all the electrons continuously, hence amount of energy absorbed per second. Amount of energy absorbed per second per electron will be total power divided by number of conduction electrons in n layers, that is n dash. Total power we have given here, that is total power. What about the total power here? Incident power is uniformly distributed by all the electrons continuously, hence the amount of energy absorbed per second, that will be given by, here it will be equals to, here we can write amount of energy absorbed per second, that will be calculated by this P divided by N. So that is 2 into 10 is power minus 9 divided by this, that is 10 is power 17. So we got 2 into 10 is power this minus 26 joule per second. Now here I am looking about this 2 into 10 is power minus 2. Why they have written like that? This incident power is we can say 10 is power minus 5 watt per second, watt per meter square. Work function of the metal is given to us. So here the incident power is uniformly distributed in the 5 layers. So here how this 2 into 10 is power minus 2 is coming out to be here 17, and this it will be equals to 2 into 10 is power this joule second, and then the time required for photoelectric emission is work function over this energy. So this is nothing but 3.2. Work function is already given to us, that is work function is 3.2 into 10 is power minus 19 over this energy, that is 2 into 10 is power minus 26. So it is coming out to be 1.6 into 10 is power 7 second, and it is approximately equal to 0.507 hours. So the time required for photoelectric emission is coming out to be half a year, and which is not practical. Why? Because according to law of photoelectric emission, its value, the photoelectric emission is instantaneous process, so that's why it is not possible, and hence the Bay picture is in disagreement with the given experiment. So here one thing should be noted here. This value of the intensity is 10 is power minus 5. So if I take it toward upside, 10 is power minus 5 watt. How this? Because P is equals to I into A. Intensity into area. So that's why intensity 10 is power minus 5 and area is 2 into 10 is power minus 4. So it will come out to 2 into 10 is power minus 9 this joule per second. So that's why here we can write like that, because we were getting confused here. Power is equals to what we can say, intensity multiplied by area. Why we have written like that? Because intensity is equals to energy incident per unit time per unit area, like that. And what about this E by T? That is nothing but power. So power over area is equals to intensity. So that's why here we have put the value 2 into 10 is power minus 9 joule second. So in this way we got the answer. So once again I am repeating students here, the light of intensity this much falls on a sodium photocell. This is our sodium photocell having the surface area. Surface area is given to us, that is 2 centimeter square. Okay, assuming these 5 layers. This is first, second, third, fourth, and 5. 5 layers of sodium absorb the incident energy. Estimate the time required for photoelectric emission to take in the Wave picture of radiation. Work function for the metal is given to us. What is the implication of our answer? So whatever the data we have given, we have written and converted it in System International. Okay. Now the effective atomic area, this thing should be kept in mind. Effective atomic area of the sodium atom is 10⁻20 meters square. It is not given in the question. Why? Because in the atom chapter we have already studied size of the atom is 10⁻10 meters. So area will be equal to 10⁻20 meters square. So hence the number of conduction electrons will be number of layers multiplied by total area divided by atomic area of sodium atom. So in this way we got the number of conduction electron 10⁻17. Now the incident power is uniformly absorbed by all the electrons present in these 5 layers of sodium. Hence the amount of energy absorbed per second per electron will be given by E is equals to P by N dash. So what about this P? P, power is equal to product of intensity into area. Intensity, and this is area. So we got power 2 into 10⁻⁹ joule per second. Because intensity is energy incident per unit time per unit area, so that's why. So here from this point we have taken this relation. So putting the value of this power, okay, dividing it by N dash, we got this much. That is what we can say, amount of energy absorbed per second per electron. This is E. Now the time required for photoelectric emission is T is equals to phi naught by E. Why? Because this is work function, and we require the time, so total work function divided by the energy, that is absorbed per second per electron. Total energy divided by energy absorbed by 1 electron in 1 second. So we will divide it with this, we get this much year. Near about half year is required. And this is the contradiction of law of photoelectric emission, which states that photoelectric emission is the instantaneous process. Okay. So students, in this way today we have studied about these 10 questions, exercise 11.21 to 11.30. The rest of the questions will continue. The exercise will continue in the next lecture. Thank you.